Thank you for coming. This afternoon, the announcement is about a leadership change with the monitor and the monitoring team. And speaking this morning will be Mayor Frank G. Jackson, who will be here in just a second. Then Matthew Barge, Hassan Aden, incoming and the outgoing monitor. And then the first Assistant U.S. Attorney for Northern District of Ohio, Bridget Brennan. And then Councilman Blaine Griffin. After Blaine is done, Councilman is done, then we will take a few questions pertinent to the discussion around the change of leadership for the monitoring team. Mayor.
Okay. Well, as was mentioned, this announcement is about the change of leadership in the monitoring team. As you know, in 2014, we received a finding from the U.S. Department of Justice in regards to our Division of Police. And from that time on, we began to negotiate the City of Cleveland with the Department of Justice and our local U.S. Attorney's Office on what will be the terms of the settlement agreement. We reached an agreement on what those terms would be, and in October of 2015, we picked the monitoring team that was headed by Mr. Matthew Barge. And as you know, Mr. Barge has been at the helm and has done some very significant work as we move through meeting conditions and the points of our consent decree, our settlement agreement. Mr. Barge is moving on, and the DOJ, local U.S. Attorney in the city, has agreed on Mr. Hassan Aden to be the new head of the monitoring team. I'll just give you a little background on him. He began to work on the monitoring team in 2016, which indicates that he has some experience. He is familiar with what we've done so far and what our challenges are going forward. He previously served 25 years with the Alexandria Police Department and was the former chief of police at Greenville, North Carolina. He also served as a fellow for the National Police Foundation and senior advisor on the policing of Vera Institute of Justice. Is that correct? He holds a master's degree in public administration from American University. And late 2017, he was promoted to deputy monitor on this team. So he is not new to Cleveland and not new to this process, and we believe, both us and the Department of Justice believe that he is an excellent choice to take us into the future and to resolve whatever concerns that we may have in fully complying with the consent decree. So with that, I'll introduce Mr. Matthew Barge, who is the outgoing monitor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First off, I want to thank the City of Cleveland, the Department of Justice, the men and women of the Division of Police, and the Cleveland community for everyone's tireless work over the past nearly 4 years on the implementation of the consent decree. It's been a privilege and an honor to serve on behalf of the court to oversee the implementation of the decree. There is a tremendous amount of work that remains to be done, but a tremendous amount of progress that's been made. And it has been a privilege to be at the helm of a team that remains second to none in assisting the Division of Police in coming into compliance with that decree. I am moving on because my husband is taking on a professional opportunity that will have us relocating to California. That is not outer Siberia, but it is far enough that I can't pledge to be as involved and on the ground in Cleveland as I believe a monitor must be. So I am passing the baton to Mr. Hassan Aden Hassan has been working tirelessly along with me and the rest of the monitoring team for several years. As the mayor noted, I have valued his judgment, his experience. He thinks in a manner about these issues that is pragmatic, that is focused on making this work for everyone in Cleveland, officers, community, residents, people who live and work and love Cleveland. And I have every confidence that he will be able to continue the strong progress that we've made. Last, I would just say that, at times in this process to date, and I'm sure it will happen as this moves forward and the Division of Police implements the many processes and procedures that have been changed as a result of the consent decree. Many people may ask in the community, in the police department, why are we doing this? Isn't this done yet? Why is it important that we continue down the consent decree path? Nothing, we have better things to do. Nothing will ever change. And the one thing that many in the community and in the police department, I think, have heard me say, and I think it holds true, is that we are not consigned to be as we always have been. We together can help change and make Cleveland a better place to live, a safer community, and have a police department that works a little bit better for everyone. I believe that at my core every day throughout this process, and I have full confidence that Mr. Aden has the same frame of mind. So with that, Hassan Aden.
Thank you, Matthew. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's an honor and privilege to take on this role as lead monitor here in Cleveland. As has been stated, I've served here for the last 3 years, and as of late, last couple of years, I've served as deputy monitor. So Matthew and I have worked closely together. We've made some tough decisions together. We've worked with all the stakeholders in the city. I'm familiar with this process. And I want to assure the people and the stakeholders in this process that this change doesn't slow anything down. I think quite the opposite. I think this has recharged the team. Matthew Barge is going to remain on the team and serve on the team in a couple of different areas. So I can continue to rely on his counsel, judgment, and experience as we move forward to these critical years in addressing the provisions of the consent decree. Again, I think the message that I want to give here to the citizens and all the stakeholders is that a lot of progress has been made and there is no slowdown. We are continuing to work as soon as we're done with this press conference on matters related to the consent decree. I'm going to keep my comments short, and I want to introduce First Assistant U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Ohio, Bridget Brennan.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm here on behalf of Justin Herdman. He is our U.S. Attorney, but he couldn't be here today. He's out of the district on military leave. But we are pleased to join Mayor Jackson, Chief Williams, the City of Cleveland, and the Cleveland Division of Police to recommend Mr. Aden to lead this monitoring team. As it's been mentioned, Mr. Aden has been a dedicated member of this very hardworking monitoring team for quite some time. And we're confident that he's going to continue to work with the city, to work with the department, and especially Judge Oliver to continue the implementation of this consent decree. We'd also like to recognize Mr. Barge for his assistance and his leadership throughout this entire process. So with that, Councilman Blaine, I believe, has a few remarks as well. Councilman Griffin. Sorry.
Good afternoon. I'm here representing Council President Kelly as well as the Safety Chair for Cleveland City Council, Matthew Zone. They were unable to be here today. Therefore, I'm here representing council leadership. I also like to acknowledge that my colleague, Councilman Martin Kane, is here. And we just want to say that council stands ready to support this change. And we also like to thank Mr. Barge for all of his service that he has provided to the city of Cleveland. But we're going to continue to work closely to monitor the policies and the procedures and the things that we need to, as a council, to make sure that police reform is long-term and sustainable in the city of Cleveland. It's critical for the residents to continue to have input, and as we move forward, we'll make sure that we'll do our part as Cleveland City Council to make sure that we support all that is needed to make sure that police reform is institutionalized in the city of Cleveland. So we stand ready to support the mayor, the chief, and everyone in their efforts to continue to make this happen. And Mr. Hassan, welcome aboard. Thank you.
Now, not just the speakers, but everybody that's standing up here is capable to answer any question that you might have, so we invite your questions at this time.
Mr. Eden, how long will this go on? I thought there was a 5-year period, and now I'm hearing that this could be extended. I mean, are we really months away from finishing this, or could this go on indefinitely?
We don't know how long it's going to take. There is a prescribed menu, if you will, and once the city and the CDP come into full and effective compliance with that, then we'll be done. We've made tremendous progress. Where we are right now in the decree is we've essentially finished the policy work, which transitions a difficult sort of in-the-weeds process of developing policy. But in my opinion, I think now hard work in implementing those policies and training to those policies and making sure that they become practice, that begins. So it's difficult to tell how long that's going to take. It's not a question that I don't think anyone can answer at this point.
Will there still be a $5 million cap on the spending, or will that be extended along with the timetable if it goes that way?
There's a $4.95 million cap, and that stands
That'll stand no matter how long this goes.
to the 5 years.
But I mean, if it gets extended past 5 years, does that also get extended?
Then the court will have to decide what we do, how we move forward.
Mr. Aden, in March, the latest report out said that the team had reached a turning point. Can you say where you are since March?
Essentially what I've just stated, where the turning point is actually where we're pivoting from a lot of technical assistance in the policy work to a little less technical assistance and much more into the auditing and assessment phase to take a deep dive into how the CDP is transitioning the policy work that we've done and moving it into training and into the implementation phase and then eventually into practice. So it's a significant change, and it's consistent across all of the consent decrees that are in place. Some of them take different timelines to get to that point, but we are here now. And again, I think that it can be both a sigh of relief to be done with that first piece, but then there is a mountain of work to be done right now. And I think that all the stakeholders, the CDP, the city, us, the CPC, everyone is ready, and the community is ready to sort of dive into it. This is where you start to see the impact of all the work that we've done to this point.
So what are your priorities moving forward?
Well, I think the priorities are to get all of the training approved and in place on important policies such as search and seizure, implicit bias, things that are immediately going to impact how the police police. Those are the priorities, and there's many others. I mean, I think the consent decree itself and the monitoring plan speak for themselves. We have a large volume of work, but those are just two that we're like engaging in. Again, like I said, even as soon as we're done here, we're going to be going off and meeting, trying to get those things launched and provided as tools to the officers that serve the Cleveland community.
All right, if no other questions, that concludes the press conference. Thank you. Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Stakeholder question as a member of the community to the new lead monitor about your team. Will you be able to work with the folks who've been the most present that the community has responded to well throughout the Cleveland Police Commission process? Will you be keeping that team of monitor staff intact?
Yes, sir, absolutely. We are a cohesive team. We work well with each other. And this, again, I just want to reiterate, this change in lead monitor is just that. The team is exactly the same. We will continue down the path that we've been going down. We are all keenly aware of the work ahead of us and the interest by the community. This community is fantastic to work with. And again, we supported this change because of that factor. There is no interruption. And again, as I've stated, Mr. Barge will remain a subject matter expert on the team. We've all grown very close, and we support each other, and we think that this is the best way to move forward to achieving the requirements of the consent decree.
When can we expect the next report out? Is that in August again or September?
Yes, August.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.